Brad from Heaven's Metal Magazine. I just got off a Zoom call with Mark Santani and Gary Wehrkamp from the band Harpazo. They got a new album coming out this Friday. So if this video comes out after Friday the 28th, the album is already out. It's called The Crucible. It is an insanely great rock opera, progressive metal story about the end times set about 200 years into the future. It is absolutely fantastic. It's got wonderful vocalists on it like DC Cooper, Les Carlson, Ray Parra, Michael Drive, among others. I don't want to give everything away. I want you to listen to this interview. These guys are awesome, super enthusiastic about this project. I think you're all going to really, really dig this. So here we go. Here's my talk with Harpazo. Okay, hey, this is Brad. I got the privilege to talk with Mark and Gary from Harpazo, kind of a project band that put together this rock opera, for lack of better words, called The Crucible. We're going to talk about that in depth. But first, guys, why don't you introduce yourself and tell us how this collaboration came together?
I'll go first. I'm Mark Santani. I am was formerly the student of Gary Wehrkamp, so I like Gary Wehrkamp. There you go, Gary. Your turn.
I'm Gary Wehrkamp. I'm Mark's teacher. No, former teacher.
Still my teacher.
That's how we met years ago. Coming to my studio for music lessons. But I'm Gary. I'm with Shadow Gallery, Amaranth's Plight, a bunch of other prog things here and there. But this is my current thing that I'm excited to talk about.
Oh, fantastic. So let me set up where I'm coming from, guys. I think you saw in my email, I said of all the Heaven's Metal staff, I'm the biggest prog metal guy. And if anyone disagrees, they're wrong. Mark and I were just shooting the bull about some of our favorite bands. Apparently we have the same playlist. So that's good. And Gary, it's a privilege to get to talk to you. It was funny. I was after I listened to The Crucible, I went back and listened to Tyranny. And just forgot what a great record that was from Shadow Gallery, because that came out. I discovered Dream Theater like on their first album was When Day and Dream Unite, and you guys started recording at Shadow Gallery soon thereafter, and so I was like eating up anything and everything that was progressive metal, and found you guys, and so been listening to Shadow Gallery for a while. So when I saw this and saw you were involved, I told the editor, Doug Van Pelt, I said, I have to do this interview. I have to talk to these guys. So,
well, thanks.
So I listened to The Crucible two ways. I listened to it in my car. Mark, I told you I drive a Mustang with a Shaker 500 sound system, integrated subwoofers in the door panels. It thumps. It's awesome. And the album sounds outrageous on that. And then also I took about a 3-mile walk on Monday with headphones in, listening to it and digesting it even further. And I have some notes. So I want to go through these notes, and I would like for you guys to react to my reactions.
Okay.
Great.
Okay. So a little different than some of the other interviews I've seen you do. So my first reaction was, this sounds like the next evolution of Shadow Gallery.
Wow. I don't want to comment on that, or I don't want to agree with that necessarily. I mean, obviously there's going to be that flavoring in there because I'm one of the writers on Shadow Gallery, and let's be clear, I'm just one of 4 writers in that band.
Right.
So, but it naturally is going to have that, because all the guys in Shadow Gallery have a similar style, and so that's going to come out, and you're going to hear Brent come out with a solo album in probably a year, and it's going to blow your mind, and you'll say the same thing. This is the next evolution of Shadow Gallery, but it's just Brent, and he's a big part of that band. So
yeah, that's great. Now the next statement. You guys, I take it, are both Dream Theater fans, right?
Yeah, I know their older stuff.
Yeah. Okay. So they came out a few years ago with an album called The Astonishing.
Yeah.
And it was met with mixed reviews. And my reaction to The Crucible, it's kind of The Astonishing done right.
Wow. I never heard The Astonish. I never heard any part of that, but I meant to, because it looked like an amazing record.
Cool.
I guess
It was a
it's
cool
what,
record.
orchestrated?
It's real, or it's really well orchestrated. Yeah, it's
Yeah,
good.
it is. It is. It's winding. That's a good word for it. I bought the CD and listened to it, and then saw them play it live in concert, and it ruined the CD because it sounded so much better live
Yeah.
than the CD. But what I meant by that is you guys are able to tighten up the wonderings of the astonishing. And you were able to tighten up your story and tighten up the music to where I never got bored through the entire thing.
Wow.
Oh, good. I mean, we had a little bit more time than they did writing that. So
Well, to be fair, Brad, I came to Gary with 20 something songs, so it might have been as long as the astonishing if I would have had my way. But you can thank Gary for that piece. So he helped produce that and helped me narrow it down and get to the point. And we talked about that in other interviews, but as a producer, Gary's really great at helping me get to when I'm writing and I'm coming to him with 3 paragraphs worth of stuff or a lot more lyrics. He can, okay, how do we get to the point of what the characters are trying to say and get it to a nice, neat little package for every section without, boring the listener. So
Yeah, my next reaction was I have it on my notes. I have vocals, vocals, vocals. Insane. You guys got some of the best vocalists singing today. And the choral parts later on in the album, who did those arrangements?
that would be me.
Gary, thumbs up, man. That is phenomenal. So that kudos to you. So give me background about how you hooked up with all these different singers. I mean, you got Les Carlson and Mike Drive and Ray Parra and DC Cooper, all these phenomenal singers. Give me the story behind hooking up with some of those guys and gals.
I'll let Gary talk about the local musicians like DC and and then I'll go over the other ones.
Yeah, I mean, I've worked with DC on a few projects and had the pleasure of being on stage with him. And I think our last show is when I flew him to Athens to sing 1 or 2 songs with us. So that was an adventure to hang out with him for 4 days over there for that. So he's a good close friend of mine. But he also above that, even he's a fantastic singer and the right voice for a project like this. So he was high on my list right away. Mark and I both made lists of who could be on the record, and we need these characters. And so that's DC. Leanne Lemperly she was somebody who's recording in my studio, who I've worked with a lot, did some side projects with. I had a Pink Floyd tribute band. She was one of the female backup singers. Phenomenal talent. She's actually a really amazing opera singer. But I had to kind of take a little bit of that out of her and try to get her to sing a little more that was suitable for this record, with a few exceptions. And then Jennifer Eckhart also, she just finished doing an album here at my studio over the course of 2 years. And I just said, hey, you might be perfect for one of these characters. You want to give it a go? And she did. And that was also fantastic. And then I'm the Jude character. So I demoed the vocals for all the parts, and we just kept my demos and didn't find anybody to replace me in the end. Although that wasn't the plan for a long time. So.
Yeah, I was quickly little anecdote. I had the privilege of sitting in on Les Carlson through a little Zoom party for his wife's anniversary, and Ray Parra was there, and so I'm sitting there, and Ray mentioned this album and asked Les if he had heard it yet, and I don't think Les had heard the entire thing in its entirety, but Ray was going on and on about how good it was. So just throw that in there.
I didn't know that. He hasn't.
Yeah.
He didn't. Yeah, I sent them the CDs not too long ago, so hopefully they got them. I know Les is really busy. I think he was going to Vegas for something, but those guys. So my father used to work at a nightclub in New York. They used to play a lot of these Christian rock bands, right? So I got the chance to know, like I got to hear. We had like all the CDs, like Blood Good and Sacred Warrior and stuff like that. So I had a list before me and Gary started, like, okay, this character would be, Ray Parra, this character would be Les. I made that list before Facebook. This is back in the MySpace days, okay? Like, this is my list. I'm like 18, 19 years old, writing like some, doodling some notes. I was a writer. I always write like epic poetry. So I was like, man, I would be so cool. And like this character and that character. I had a couple other names. You mentioned Roy Khan earlier in the interview. That was another name. I didn't get him, but there's some people I didn't get, but they're all been really kind and nice. And so when I was reached out to Les and Ray, we waited till we had a really, really solid demo. I really want them to get just a great feel of the music, to hear their parts. And man, I will say, like Michael Drive, all these guys, such incredible people. I contacted Les. He's like, "What's my part? What's my part?" Like he was just so excited just to be part of something like this. I was so impressed, and he gave me a call, and I'm like, if you can imagine, as a kid, I used to watch as a little kid, watch Alive in America on my VHS tape. My dad would have it all the time, and I'd watch them do like the whole rock opera with the Messiah, and oh my gosh, that was so important to my faith. And seeing Les, and I mean the whole production was so cool, and I think a lot of influence definitely comes from that. Les called me, and we prayed over the album. Man, it was so great. And then Ray, very similar. He called me after I sent him the parts that he would do. He was interested. He treated me like I was his best friend. Like he was so kind. And I mean, it's just a few things about these guys that you don't get a chance so often to meet. I guess your heroes, I guess you could say. You could always be let down. I've experienced that in my life. You meet someone you care about, and and you find out they're not what you envision, right? And you have to remember they're people too. And when you're younger, it's harder. But these guys, man, they lived up to that. They've been great. So a lot of those other singers I contacted, and but yeah, they just said yes and they joined in. It was perfect.
Yeah, that's fantastic. That's been my experience meeting those guys too. Through doing this with Heaven's Metal, I've been able to meet a lot of the guys I listened to when I was in high school. I'm a little older than you, Mark, a little older. So
Okay.
it wasn't my dad. I was the dad that would be, listening to that and showing my kids the stuff. So,
Why aren't you a little bit older than me?
Gary, how old are you exactly? If you
I'm a
don't.
little bit younger, than you.
Okay. However old I'm at, you're a little bit younger.
Well, let's just start there and we'll cycle back to it maybe later.
Okay. So after that, I have, and Gary, this is a tribute to you. My next note was instrumentation excellence, not just in how it's played, but how it's mixed and how it's arranged. I love the fact, and that goes right into my next point, was dynamics. And you did this a lot in Shadow Gallery too, where you weren't just pedal to the metal all the time. You're not afraid to go into acoustic guitar and acoustic passages and slow it down with piano, and then come in with the crunch later, and that adds so much more. So
I think that, yeah, there's two parts for it, two reasons. One is the first thing is I get very bored with just one style. Like my brain is already, like, even if I'm writing it or hearing it, I want the next thing. I'm always anticipating, a little eager for something else. Let's make this a rich tapestry of sounds, and then two, for an album like this, it totally suits that. And when you have a concept album, you're gonna have ebb and flow. You're gonna have to go back and forth between characters, and this provides that opportunity to sometimes be aggressive for the aggressive character, or be a little timid for the character who's trying to make sense of what's going on. And so it makes it kind of easy to go, okay, here are the lyrics. This is definitely going to be quiet and pensive. And when we get here, it's got to kind of open up the skies and just really grab you.
Yeah, fantastic. So there's been kind of an influx, thanks to Neil Morse, in the Christian music scene, of a lot of concept albums coming out. And Neil's tends to be more traditional prog rock. This is like prog metal, which is fantastic. So I'm just asking, do you listen to a lot of Neil Morse, Mark? Gary, are you familiar with his work?
I don't, but it's not him. I just don't listen to a lot of anybody.
Okay, yeah, no.
But I do love, like, what I've heard from him. The last thing I can remember was "Love That Never Dies." I thought that was just unbelievable.
Yeah, he's super prolific. He puts out an album, it seems like, every 6 months. So it's kind of hard to keep up with him, honestly.
I love Neil. Huge fan. Been fan since the first album I ever heard was Snow. So you'll definitely hear some Spock's Beard influence on the album for sure. Especially older albums like that, and I think V or 5 or whatever. But yeah, and then Jesus Christ the Exorcist, I loved it. I was just checking out Joseph not too long ago, the part one. Still kind of digesting. Part two already came out. I'm like, I'm not done digesting part one yet. So yeah, he's absolutely phenomenal. So, and I actually met with him not too long ago at he has like these monthly meetings for prayer and things like that. And I got a chance to actually just listen to him talk and hear his story. So really cool
Yeah,
stuff.
that's fantastic. Yeah, and the reason I bring up Neil is I'm reacting to the Crucible much the same way I've reacted to his. It's not what I would call like a super easy listen. Like there are like I Am God. That's a great like first single for you guys to drop because that's a really good standalone song. But everything
Yeah.
else just kind of flows into each other. I love that about this, and that's a good thing. But it's going to take multiple listens to really, really get into it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, so now my next point is story. So Mark, you're going to talk to this because you're you came up with all of this, right? This is
Yeah.
your
Correct.
I like your merging of sci-fi with eschatology.
Yes.
So this isn't your normal Left Behind, Thief in the Night, you know, the end times are now. This is like way in the future. So
Yeah.
talk to me, how did you come up with that?
You know, originally I was really I was finding my faith, and I was a news writer for my dad's news company, and I was had to publish a lot of commentary. And again, I had a Christian upbringing, listened to Christian music. I kind of got out of it for a while, and then there was this one writer and a couple other people. They started seeing some, there's one verse in the Bible that talks about the two witnesses, where there's a part where it says when they die the whole world will see it. For centuries nobody knew that was impossible, and so there's these things that were coming true, and I'm like, wow, that to me was like, that's incredible, the fact that that's in there. And there was some things that I was just doing research. I was finding my faith, studying the origins of the Bible, and I just started to come to this idea that prophecy could happen. But I'm like, well, it doesn't feel. I mean, we always say like, hey, it can happen any moment, right? I didn't want it to do that. I didn't want to do that. I didn't want to set it tomorrow. Like, I wanted to be so, because I think I don't, I just wanted to create a fictional story. I didn't want it to be set today. I want to think about where it could be with technology evolving way down the line. Like, what if it isn't tomorrow? What if it's 100 years, 200 years from now? So I really wanted to just get it out of this landscape that we're in today and get us into a fictional world so we can get lost in it without having to be kind of confined to a story that would be today. So I didn't realize all these things were going to be happening in the last couple of years, like the transhumanist movement and Elon Musk with the chip being planted in the brain. They were just talking about the first person who got that done. So, I mean, I wrote that stuff before that was happening, but I digress. So when I started writing the story, I had originally just was writing out like the prophecies. Like I was just, okay, just, I'll write some thing about it. Like the two witnesses were these people, blah, blah, blah. And, I just wasn't really, it wasn't all that exciting. There was another band that did it really well, Harmageddon, I think they're called. And that was a cool CD. And I'm like, I don't want to do the same thing. I want to do something different. And I was, again, huge fan of rock operas. I was sitting in the living room with my brother, and I'm like, you know what? It would just be so cool if these characters were going through the story and then all these different things come up and, wait a minute, I got an idea. And I just started writing, and it just came to me as I was talking to my brother, and I just started writing, and then that's how the story got started. So
Yeah, that's fantastic. Yeah. Let me ask you a question. There's a lot of stuff in here about man-machine
yeah,
interface. Would you happen to be a Mamoru Oshii fan from like Ghost in the Shell? That old.
yeah, I'm not like a big fan, but
Okay,
I
okay.
mean, I definitely know, like, the Terminator, movies,
Yeah,
video
yeah.
games, there's a lot of stuff that I am definitely a frequent user of different medias. Like Mass Effect, the video game, I was a big fan of that when that came out. So there's kind of some influences even in that game because the game was unbelievable. But yeah, so yeah.
So Gary, when Mark comes to you with this idea and has this kind of out there story, what's your first reaction?
Well, I mean, it's great to have a story, and he did have a story, and to be fair, uh, he worked pretty hard on developing it, from its early inception. And but for me, it's like, okay, these are good lyrics and good ideas, but we need to make good songs. And lyrics are poetry. Not saying his was poetry, but I get a lot of people I meet, throughout my life. They go, "Yeah, I wrote a song," and they just wrote words and they put it on paper and they think it's a song. It's not, because songs have flow and songs have to, satisfy certain criteria in order to move from one part to another. And then it's got to be pieced together musically, where the harmonies also lead and create dissonance when you need to, or not, or just flow. So that's a lot of it. But the biggest thing for me always is to have a great chorus, even if it's not catchy, like, Taylor Swift level of repeating the same words, or, like, we had no aspirations to create that kind of style, and that would be kind of silly. And but still, we need a chorus first. Like, what are we going to call it? And it's always like, get to the point. What's the headline? We'll get back to the details in the verses. And so that's always what I'm trying to think of. But from the idea that it could be, a conceptual piece and it was a story, that's right up my alley because I'm such a big fan of like Pink Floyd, The Wall, and like full experiences of records, not just a song. Obviously, it's a collection of songs, but since I've been 10, I've always wanted to make records that just didn't really stop. I don't want a lot of silence on the album unless it's intentional to make you stop and think for a second. Right. But there's other ways to do that. So I think I was the right guy to team up with Mark on this.
Perfect, right? I don't think I could have found a better person.
No, yeah, it's fantastic. I can't wait to sit down and write my review. Got to get the review done before Friday, right? Is the official release of the whole thing?
The 28th is the release date. I will tell you a little just so you know, I created a visualizer experience that will have, like, it's totally over the top with imagery and parts of the story. So, for the story, if you let me know if you want to see a sneak of it, because I could get it to you, and I could maybe that will give you another way to enjoy the music at some point.
Of course. Yeah. I mean, what I do video production and animation for a living. I would love to take a look at it.
Yeah. Well, then you can make it better. How about that? I'll send it to you and you can update it. How about that?
Yeah, we'll see.
Just put in 60, 70 hours and get it back.
Yeah, I probably put like 500 hours into this thing, but I'm really excited about it. You can critique, please. I need it.
So the first video for I Am God came out. I loved it.
Hey, Wayne Joyner.
What a great song, though. And Gary, talking about chorus, when that chorus kicks in on I Am God, I'm like, okay, wait a minute. I wasn't paying attention to the lyrics. He's saying, I am God. Who is saying this? And this was before I read the synopsis. And then I realized, wait a minute, this isn't like, I am God. This is the bad guy saying this. So yeah, that was a lot of fun.
It's underlining his power trip at this point, that you don't need the real God in the religious sense that we've known, but guess what? I am really your God. I'm going to control everything, and you're going to follow me.
Yeah, and I like it when I am God, small g. So that was,
which in a way I personally think I am. So my only fear was like, when this comes out, people who don't know it's a story going, oh, Gary and his ego, he thinks he's God now.
Everyone seems to think that's like, I Am God's like a very Christian pushing song. And I'm like, did you read the lyrics? It definitely is not.
Well, yeah, that's because I wasn't paying attention to the lyrics. And then I was like, wait a minute, this doesn't sound very Christ-like. So
not like I Am of Theocracy, right? Where he kind of goes, I am grace and mercy.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, that's a great song.
One of the greatest songs ever written, I believe, is that one. So
yeah, I
have a son who is a musician. He's a worship leader for a large church in Georgetown, Kentucky. And he grew up like you, Mark, listening to the music I listen to. So he's a huge Dream Theater, Camelot, Christian metal guy,
Yeah.
And I let him hear it. Let him hear the song. He was up last weekend. I said, you got to check this out.
Which one did you show?
I showed him I Am God. That's okay. I just showed him the lead, and he loved it. He said, this is a really good song. And then I told him who was involved, and he was like, oh, okay, that makes sense. So that's great. So do you guys have any more videos planned other than this visualizer that you put together, Mark? Do you have any more videos planned?
Yeah, the music video for iCore will be out on Friday at 8 o'clock in the morning.
Very cool. Very cool. And where are you guys going to take this?
to your room to talk about it. uh, if you mean like what's the next step, I mean, I think
Yeah.
the success or potential of success may determine that. I just talking about how much fun it would be to make this a live theatrical production. But it would be a little bit of work, and we're like same thing with Shadow Gallery. We're kind of spread out with all the singers, and so it would be quite a bit to even put rehearsals together. But you never know. I mean, if it gets a lot of attention, then and people want to hear it, then we want to get it to them in that kind of medium.
Yeah, one of my notes here says this deserves a film treatment. That would be phenomenal. Take that story, turn it into a film with this as the soundtrack. That would be
or just a movie, or just the ideas of there's so many unanswered questions about, like I go in the story about if you get the mark of the beast, are you doomed? Are you not doomed? There's so many things that we don't ever really explore or talk about. Or what if we did merge man and machine together and you could live forever? And well, why would you need religion in your life, right? So there's some that's the message being sold on the album to people. And yeah. So
yeah, some deep thinking there. Let's talk about the let's see, the Michael character, the messenger. Is he your Paul, your Saul to Paul conversion story that's in the story?
I would say so. He definitely goes through a lot, and he witnesses, some pretty in the Two Witnesses song. He witnesses some stuff that happens that forever changes him, and he starts to piece together the information. Now, and Les Carlson's character, the stranger, is the one who delivers him that message of, "This is what you just saw. What are you going to do about it now?" And that's when Michael makes a decision that maybe the wrong decision, but he makes a decision to do something about it, to end this possibility of this world. All these people he knows and loves dying, like the Relina character, things like that. So
yeah, it's great. So I just saw Dream Theater just announced the novelization of Scenes from a
yeah, I saw that too.
So Mark, did that start any thinking?
Oh my gosh, yeah. You kidding me? I screenshotted it on my phone. I'm like, no, no. Now my brain's already going that direction, like yeah. But I'm trying to just stay concentrated on this release first. If people love this, I don't have anything if people don't hear this. I could write a book all I want. No one's gonna buy it unless they, if they know there's a good album out there. And hopefully that's a great book. Hopefully that's a great album. It deserves a great book. Scenes from Memory.
Yeah, I hope so. I liked it when it was called Dead Again. The movie it's kind of the exact same plot, but
Same thing with Tyranny. Tyranny deserves a movie too. I mean, all these great bands put out these amazing rock operas, and it's a shame that we don't ever get to see it a lot of times in a different form.
Yeah.
The only one I see that maybe is like the Dream Theater one is the only one that can really seems to be the only one that can really pull that off, or maybe Ariane with some of his albums too. So
yeah. Mindcrime was turned into kind of a movie kind of thing. It was a weird little music video treatment, but yeah, I saw that one live. They kind of acted it out on stage. That was pretty cool.
yeah, I saw him, and I just remember seeing the clip of him and Jeff and Dio singing. I was like, oh my God, that's so cool. That was one of the best moments ever. Dio, he was so good in those duets. I didn't see it live. I wish I could have, but it's a great example.
Yeah. My wife surprised me and sent me it was the Empire tour, but they did Mindcrime all the way through, which was
Oh my gosh, that's awesome.
There was some 16-year-old girl sitting beside me. The only thing she had heard was Silent Lucidity, and she kept bugging me through the entire Mindcrime thing. What are they talking about? What does this mean? What does that mean? And I'm like, be quiet. I'm trying to.
Yeah. That Silent City song gave him a lot of fame, but like it's nothing like their other music at all. So
yeah. It's like, just be quiet. Jeez. Okay. Well, guys, I tell you what, this has been great. We've only been talking for half an hour. This is crazy. We got through all my notes. Gary, tell me, what else are you working on?
It seems like it's been just this for a long time, but I'm doing a bunch of other stuff, not necessarily in the prog rock world.
Okay.
But I do. I got a Flaming Row, who's a prog rock band. I'm working with them on something now, and a few other bands. But I'm also playing live with a variety of bands, from fill-ins to keyboards and small festivals to. I've got a show Thursday in New York City, and I also run a studio, so I'm working with clients here
Okay,
on a
good.
local level, as well as people sending me stuff. But yeah, I mean, you stuff. So a lot of pop stars too. Like not what you would expect from me. I got a girl from Canada coming down for 5 or 6 songs, and working with Sophia Angelica, who's a great talent from New York City, and so just a variety of stuff.
Yeah, got to keep busy, right? And you seem to be a very, very busy man, so that's a good thing.
Uh, Busier than some, less busy than others.
And Mark, I know you got like a regular full-time job and you're concentrating on this. What like let's took 5 years in the future. The Crucible's done fantastic. I think you're going to get a really good reception. I would really like to see this cross over the Christian metal into like mainstream prog rock fans. I think will really dig this.
Yeah.
They seem to be a little more prog rock fans seem to be a little more forgiving about like lyrical content than
Yeah.
most metalheads are like, oh no, they're talking about Jesus. We can't listen to that, that kind of thing.
Only 70% of America is Christian. So I mean, like, I don't know,
Yeah. So what is your 5 years? What do you see?
It's so hard because I just want this, like I'm so head down on this release right now to even think about what the future might be. Um, of course, before I've always had, like, oh, all these different medias it could be on. But in reality, like I have to, if I were to lift up my hub today, what I would want to see is I would love to see the story just become something that people talk about. And whether it's like let's talk about the Tyranny album. People still talk about that album, right? Even to be regarded in that way 10, 15, 20, 30 years later, people are still talking about this CD. That's how I know we did something successful. Tyranny is a great example of that. So I would just love it to see that the album be like that. And maybe, we'll see what happens after that. But I'm just hoping that the release gets some longevity and people love it.
You've got to be thrilled being this passionate about this project for so long. You've worked on this for years.
Years.
And then it comes together with this cast, with someone the caliber of musician as Gary and producer as Gary, and all of this come together. You've got to be just on top of the world, man. Just totally thrilled.
Sometimes, yeah, definitely on top of the world when I think about it. And then there are other times that just feels like I have to deliver something of these guys' caliber, right? Like these guys are counting on me to help get the word out too. And I have to play my part. And we're all like that. We're all just want to be the best we can be and make sure that the release is great. And there is a lot of just, praying, a lot of prayer. It's not in my hands. I can do only what I can do. And I just hope that the right people hear it and get involved. And so as much as I want to believe, like I tell my, I can do all this, but it's not in my hands, it's his hands. And
Right.
he's going to do what he wants with it. And if he wants to rock everyone's world with it, great. If he wants to turn it into another media, I'm going to do whatever he tells me to do for this album in any way I can.
Yeah, very cool. So the guy who did the artwork,
Yeah. Don Markovic.
is that how you say it? Is that how you say his name? Don
Markovic. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, I didn't know how to pronounce that. You never know.
Yeah, you never know.
Some of those European last names are kind of hard to get. Anyway, does he have any how do I do this? Does he have any background in like doing any comic book illustrations or graphic novels or anything like that?
Oh, yeah. He does book covers. He does all kinds of metal. He did the Jagdpanzer's album covers, Unleash the Archers,
Oh, okay, yeah.
Three Tremors with the Ripper Owens
Mhm.
and a couple other singers. And he does all kinds of books, and he does similar. His stuff tends to be a little. What I loved about him was, I know this is a metal album, right? I wanted to take the scene from Ultimatum. I didn't talk about this in my review. So in the Ultimatum song, is the scene I want to be the album cover. I just felt like, man, that's the two coming together. I just wanted that to be, and I felt like that needed a touch that wasn't just, angelic, like a Striper album might be. Like they do really great album covers, but I needed a sense of like evil. I needed to, and someone needs to draw the worst person on the face of the planet. And I saw his artwork. I'm like, if anybody can do it, this guy can. And I had asked him, and we went through notes and went through a couple different drafts, and he knocked it. I feel like he knocked it out of the park. I love the album cover so much, and he really got all the details I asked for in there. The futuristic vibe, the Blade Runner-ish look. So Jude Solomon with the big win. Now everybody has an angel. It's just pretty typical, but like, man, this is special. This is like the greatest villain of all time that we never really talked about. So I wanted to make him look as special as possible, and Dusan knocked it out of the park, man.
Yeah. The artwork is arresting. That's a good word for it. Yeah, when I was a kid, this obviously before internet, Gary, you probably the same way. You go to a record store, flip through vinyl, and look at artwork. Oh, this one might be good.
Yeah, the artwork is the first thing you say.
I bought a few albums based on the artwork. They didn't always pan out.
No,
they didn't always pan out. Some of them, yeah. I always loved the bands that looked heavy, and then you'd get them home, and they sounded like Chicago, and you'd be like, well, where did that come from? Yeah, Shadow Gallery always had great artwork. You guys always did. Your
that artist here, and we almost got him to do it. Can't remember his name.
Reiner Kowitz.
Oh yeah, he's awesome.
Yeah, and of course there's what's the guy who does the Rush covers? What's his name? Hugh Syme. Yeah,
Hugh Syme. Yeah,
he's one of my favorites. I love his stuff. So, well, as you can see, right there.
Yeah, I can see the Rush. Yeah. Yeah, I mean, the look of an album is important, right? Like it's going to set the mood, and the mood had to be dystopian. It had to fit that. I don't know if it looks harder than it actually is. That's a great question. I've wondered that myself sometimes, but I think it matches. So
no, I think it matches good. We talked about the dynamics before, and Gary mentioned you don't want to get bored with one style all the way through. That's why I think I'm reacting so positively to this. It was a surprising record. It had twists and turns, musical twists and turns to the whole thing, which was fantastic. So
yeah, really great.
Okay, guys, listen, I tell you what, we're coming up 45 minutes. I could talk all day about music though. So, it was great getting to talk to you, and Gary, privilege meeting you, and Mark, wow, your passion for this just really shows through. How many interviews have you done? Because you're still excited talking about
it. We're just getting started with the interviews. I mean, we've had, 4 or 5 straight or whatever, but there's a lot more to come.
Okay, good. That's great.
But we enjoyed this one.
Listen, me and Gary, we call each other with the same excitement on the phone about this album. Like, did you listen? Like, I texted him yesterday. Like, I think "Change Your Heart" Part 1's my favorite song that I forgot about. Right, and look, let's listen to it together. Well, we're still like, just when we talk about it, you're gonna. We could probably do 100 interviews. I don't think we'd ever get tired talking about it. We love it. So
yeah, it is. It's remarkable. I think it's kind of I call them landmark releases. Few of those in Christian metal, and I think this is going to be one. You mentioned Theocracy, As the World Bleeds is another one.
Yeah, that's a good one.
Yeah, this was like right up there with that, and I hold that one in the highest regard. So
great CD. It's a really great album.
It is
great CD, great people. Yeah.
It was so funny, Mark. You talk about the I Am Immortal Fest. I got my little T-shirt on. Theocracy played last year, and my wife, who's I told you she's a singer, she loves Theocracy. She's not a metalhead, but loves Theocracy because Matt's got a great voice, and all the vocals on his albums are phenomenal. And we were like, how are they going to pull off I Am live? Because that's like 80 voices, 80 voice choir or something in that. They did a 4-part harmony, like a gospel quartet 4-part harmony on that song, and did the song. It was insane.
I need to go watch it on YouTube. I was supposed to go that year, but we were pregnant at the time, so I couldn't go anywhere. My wife's like, "You're not leaving me." I have plans to go this year, hopefully for part two, but I don't know yet.
Oh,
But
it's only an hour from my house. I'm missing both
well,
parts this year. I got
with
a
Augusta,
business trip.
Georgia, I got it's
Yeah.
like a 15-hour drive. I did get the okay from her parents to watch our kids, but it's a lot. You know, we have a 5-month-old baby. We're like,
Yeah.
and
Yeah. Well, if
so
I was home, I'd say, Mark, you come up and stay here. I got a guest room, and we drive up together, but I'm missing both parts,
ah,
which stinks. Triton is playing live on the second on part two, and I'm gonna miss it. And uh, I'm friends
and
with the
I have Prague Power right here. It's like at the same time, and that's 2 hours from me. And Wayne Joyner already invited me to go to that, so it's like I have to pick between two of the best, festivals. I want to go to both. Like they're so great,
Okay,
so many great.
Mark, let's make a deal next year. Next year, okay?
I don't know. You
If
go.
Prague Power is not at the same weekend, I'll come down and visit you for Prague Power. You come up here for Immortal. How's that?
Yeah, I probably Wayne could hook us up. So Wayne's a great guy. He does all the artwork for all these different bands, and he did one for Seven Dust recently, and he's done Kansas, and he's doing one. He hasn't announced who it is. I know who it is, but when he does announce it, oh my gosh, it's so great. He obviously does a Dream Theater too. So it only made sense to get him involved on this album to just go
Oh
back on
yeah,
that.
yeah.
Wayne is just that music video is so special because of him, I think, in a lot of ways, like bringing that imagery to life. So
What Kansas record did he do the artwork on?
I don't know the exact
Probably one of the
record.
newer ones,
From his bio,
yeah.
but I know more of the prog, metal stuff. I mean, I have my dad. I know Kansas, but I don't know Kansas like that. So, but yeah,
Oh,
he does.
I've seen him. I can't even remember how many times. And so
But but yeah, so I just want to say, to Heaven's Metal, listen, it's funny that I'm here right now. I mean, it's strange. It's like